Kevin Love has become a laughingstock. Everything about his game has severely regressed, and he's getting treated like the runt of the litter. Heck, even Jerry Colangelo, the director of the US men's Olympic basketball team, was not sure if Love had anything left, even telling him he was completely out of shape. Before withdrawing from the Olympics, Love only got there in the first place because he reached out and felt like he owed the team. In reality, the team had no use for him. That's not even the worst of it either. He's got one of the worst contracts in the NBA, making $30 million a year. To make matters even worse, he shrunk by 2 inches. Dude went from 6'10 to 6'8. Nah, I'm just kidding. He didn't shrink, he was always 6'8, which honestly makes it more impressive he dominated in his prime. Anyway, how's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today we're gonna take a look at a player who was once considered the best power forward in the NBA. Before his rapid decline, how good was he actually? What made him so good in the first place, and why couldn't his game translate over to the Cavs? Also, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe. If you like the content, drop a sub or a like, and thank you so much for the support. First, when we look at Love's best years, it's crazy that he had all of them when he was so young. His best seasons were all before the age of 25, and back then, he looked quite different. Instead of the handsome, chiseled jawline we're used to seeing, Love looked pudgy. He was never the greatest athlete, nor was he the quickest, but you wouldn't think this guy dominated for so many years. Putting up numbers like 26 and 13, Love was a machine on offense. While his efficiency was not great for a big man, he made up for it with the sheer number of offensive rebounds he would grab. Love was known for missing shots on purpose just so he can grab the offensive board and put it back up for an easier layup. Almost Moses Malone-esque. In fact, he even broke many of Malone's records, including his consecutive double-double streak. He broke that in 2011 as a 22-year-old. Within a few years of entering the league, Kevin Love put his name in the conversation of legends. However, this wasn't the thing that made Love a great player, it was his versatility, the way he can score in all aspects from any area of the court. This was a guy who cherished the opportunity to rough it up, bang and bruise in the paint. But unlike his predecessors in Charles Barkley or Moses Malone, Love was also just as comfortable shooting from the outside. He had years of averaging 5 or 6 three-point attempts a game, and he shot a great percentage from an area that was not his primary focus. Well, not yet, that is. Regardless, he was routinely the only power forward in the top 20 in three-pointers made per season. At his position in that era, only Dirk and Channing Frye came close. Heck, back then, there were writers and journalists who legitimately believed he was the MVP of the league, a top 5 player despite the Timberwolves struggling to make the playoffs. Back in the day, we saw plenty of articles like this. There was a lot of hype surrounding him, but you know, sometimes it was justified. In a 2012 article, prominent journalist Zach Lowe also chimed in and talked about why it's not far out of reach for Love to get MVP. Quote, Love passes just about any statistical test you can devise for MVP candidacy. And truth be told, Love does have some good numbers. He's all over rebounds, second most in the NBA. He's among the league leaders in PER, points per game, and win shares. And he's doing it on a bad team, the Timberwolves. Here's a telling stat. The difference between Love on the floor and off for the Wolves is a huge 10-point gap per 100 possessions. Or about the difference between Oklahoma City's offense and Toronto's. For reference, in 2012, OKC had the second best offense, while the Raptors had the second worst. Love single-handedly carried the Wolves to a top-tier offense whenever he's on the floor. If only he could play all 48 minutes. As most of you know, Love would never lead the Wolves to a playoff berth. In the 6 seasons he was there, it wasn't all his fault. The Wolves were ran by David Kahn, who had a terrible string of draft selections while trying to build around him. He took Derek Williams with the 2nd pick in 2011, but he failed miserably to develop in Minnesota. He took Wesley Johnson with the 4th pick in 2010, and the worst of it, in the 2009 draft, he took 3 point guards, none of whom were Steph Curry. He chose Johnny Flynn with his 6th pick right ahead of Curry. It was mistake after mistake, and perhaps his biggest mistake was not even related to the draft. In late 2012, Kevin Love was anticipating the 5-year designated player contract. Basically, what this means is that every team can choose one player as the, quote, designated player to give this max contract to, allowing him to earn up to 35% of the team's salary cap. However, David Kahn and the Wolves did not want to give Love this. Instead, they reportedly were waiting to give this contract to Ricky Rubio. This infuriated Love. He was pissed off to hell. Of course, David Kahn had to step in again and make it 10 times worse. He reportedly confronted Love during his training session and thrusted the contract sheet into his hands. The contract that offered him 4 years, $62 million, a step below the designated player max he was looking for. When Love was interviewed about this encounter, he spilled the beans on how the front office has been mistreating him. I don't know who labels people stars, but even the owner, Glenn Taylor, said, "I don't think Kevin Love is a star because he hasn't led us to the playoffs." I mean, it's not like I had much support out there. You walk into the locker room every year and it's completely turned over. There's new guys everywhere, and then it happens again and again. You start to wonder, is there really a plan here? Is there really any kind of a plan? Then, when he got injured for most of the 2012-13 season, he didn't get the support he thought he would from management. Even people in my own organization were asking if it was a legitimate injury. People calling my honesty and integrity into question. And that's what really hurt me. Filtering out all this noise, Love bounced back and dominated in his final season with the Timberwolves. By the end of 2014, he was still considered a top 5 to top 10 player in the NBA despite the injury issues. Love made a seemingly full recovery and played better than ever. One of his previous weaknesses was his unwillingness to pass the ball. But honestly, I don't blame him. His teammates were not the best. But in this season, he averaged a career-high 4.4 assists per game, demonstrating his knack for running the offense. At times, he looked like a point forward, the way he catches the ball on the perimeter and just sees the floor, and hit his teammates at the right spot. This was the most complete Kevin Love we've ever seen. This would be the last time we saw Kevin Love dominate like this, at least consistently for an entire season. Love's arrival to Cleveland sparked a new era, but it was basically the LeBron and Kyrie show. Similar to how Bosh became the third fiddle back on the Heat, Love also became the third fiddle. Except the issue was, he just had a season that was statistically like top 5 in the league. Keep in mind, he was a much better player than Kyrie before he got there, and yet he got thrown into a supporting role. When previously, three-point shots made up a small fraction of his total shots, now about half his attempts became threes. Like Bosh, he was forced into a stretch 4 role, which he's good at, but that's not who he is. And unlike Bosh, Love's Achilles heel has always been defense. He couldn't make up for it on the other end, he was too slow defending off a switch. And for his entire time there, he was the guy taking all the blame when they lost. When the Cavs won, the media celebrated LeBron and Kyrie. When they lost, it was Love's fault. That's not the whole story though. Occasionally, the Cavs tried to get him involved in the offense by throwing him the ball in the paint at the start of the game. But if he misses a couple, they stop passing him the ball. That's unfortunate, cause we know Love is a rhythm player, and having inconsistent touches is the worst thing that could happen to a rhythm player. Not all the blame should go to the Cavs or his teammates though. Love's game regressed over the years. That bully ball he was once known for, he couldn't overpower his opponents like he used to. Back in Minnesota, he easily could back down a smaller defender and score, but in Cleveland, he struggled posting up smaller, quicker defenders. A myriad of nagging injuries made his situation even worse. The broken hand, the concussions, the arthroscopic surgery on his left knee, and of course, Kelly Olynyk ripping out his shoulder. Plus, a lot of mental health issues too. Love has mentioned multiple times that he's always struggled with depression. There are times when he has thoughts of suicide. It's heartbreaking to see him go through stuff like this. And there's a question I've always wondered. If Kevin Love remained on the Wolves, would he still fall off like he did in Cleveland? How many more years could he keep scoring 25+ points a game? I think he would have fell off pretty fast regardless, cause even after LeBron and Kyrie left, Love could not carry a team like he used to. Although that's partly cause he got kinda old, too. So how good was Prime K Love actually? An unquestionable superstar, a top 5 to top 10 player at his peak, the best power forward in the league for like 4 or 5 years before he joined the Cavs. Offensively, few big men had the finesse, the strength, and shooting like he did. The fact that his official height measurement is 6'7" and 3/4, it was mind-boggling. He dominated in the paint at his size. But it was his lack of size that hindered his teams on defense. There was a running joke back in the day that Love gives up as many points as he scores on offense. And that might have been true. It was a normal occurrence to witness a random role player go off on him. Anyway, that's all folks. Let me know your thoughts on Kevin Love. Do you think he could have led the Wolves to the playoffs eventually had he stayed there? Do you wish he stayed there and never went to Cleveland just to see how his career would pan out differently? Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. And of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.